Hello there. Of course, today, for the last time this week, I will start again with the latest results on the Tory leadership race and my last late shift this week. So now the Tory leadership race will enter the next stage. Yesterday, the MPs of the Tory party in the House of Commons voted on the next party leader and thus the Prime Minister for the fifth time. I will tell you the result of the fifth ballot, as usual, in order of the most votes. Rishi Sunak got 137 votes, that's a plus of 13 votes. Liz Truss got 113 votes, and that's a plus of 27 votes. And Penny Mordaunt got 105 votes, and that's a plus of 19 votes. That means that Penny Mordaunt is only 8 short of Liz Truss, but she's out of the race. And that means Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss will go to the final stage of this race. Now it's up to the members of the Tory party to decide who will be the next party leader and Prime Minister. Do you remember what I said about Liz Truss' chances for today's ballot yesterday? Well, I obviously was right. And Rishi Sunak is just 24 MPs vote ahead of Liz Truss, and she got more extra votes today than Sunak. So the next weeks will be quite interesting and very dirty, I presume. We will know the final outcome of this on September 5th, as at least that is what they told us. Johnson was forced to resign as party leader on July 7th by an internal party revolt against his much criticized leadership, which also meant the end of his government office. However, he intends to remain Prime Minister until his successor is determined, so obviously 6th of September or something. There have already been 2 television debates in the race for a successor, with a second television duel on Sunday being quite heated and the candidates attacking each other personally. And on Monday, a third television debate that had actually been planned was cancelled. MPs from the ruling Tories had previously expressed concern that the public dispute between the applicants could damage the party's reputation. What reputation? A few more weeks before his scheduled departure from office, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson also kicked out one of his most staunch opponents within the party. Tobias Ellwood is no longer part of the Tory parliamentary group, the Conservative Party's whip office, which is responsible for parliamentary discipline, said this on Tuesday. The reason for this is his absence from the vote of no confidence or vote of confidence brought by the government on Monday. Ellwood, who is said to be one of the few remaining anti-Brexit leaders in the Tory party, said he deeply regrets losing membership of the group. After a visit to Moldova, however, he was unable to find a flight due to travel difficulties, so that he could be there in time for the vote on Monday evening. The government prevailed with a majority of 111 votes. The MP for the Bournemouth East constituency had campaigned vehemently in recent weeks for Johnson's replacement as Prime Minister. In a guest article for The Times, he had also called for a return to the European single market, which would be a good idea. When you look at Great Britain now, after 12 years of government, Brexit and Johnson chaos, the Tories present themselves as a drained, unimaginative party and shoot themselves out some kind of. Great Britain's Tories devote themselves to mutual denigration in the fight for party leadership and power, and nobody puts forward concepts against the crises. For the first time in UK history, the Weather Service issued Alert Level 1 for much of England over the weekend, and the warning meant danger to life and limb, even for healthy people, and I know what they mean. Everyone who travels by train is now strongly discouraged from doing so. And the fact that there will be another strike on the rails in Great Britain at the end of the month seems almost precautionary. Meanwhile, airlines have had to cancel tens of thousands of flights due to lack of staff. And if you want to fill up, you can only moan about the high petrol prices. The National Health Service, the NHS, has been operating at the edge of capacity since the corona pandemic at the latest. Anyone who suffers a heart attack or stroke waits an average of 51 minutes for rescue. For millions of patients, it takes days to get an appointment with a general practitioner, months for a tooth repair, often years for urgently needed procedures like knees or hips. The special status of Northern Ireland, which is still economically advantageous despite the hardships caused by Brexit, is threatened because London is threatening to break the exit agreement. As a result, Brussels could throw the island out of the EU's Horizon Science program. Then research would lose even more people abroad than it is already doing. Climate, transport, health, international reliability in the competition to succeed Boris Johnson as Conservative Party leader and thus also as head of government in the country, none of this plays a role, or at most it plays a marginal role. Instead, those who remained in the race and their entourage are arguing about the alleged betrayal of the miserably failed prime minister, and he's a prime minister of lies about populist excitement topics such as the gender assignment of LGBTQ. But the Conservative sacred cow reigns supreme. That's tax cuts. The Tories are currently presenting themselves as a party drained of ideas after 12 years of government and also Brexit and Johnson chaos. It is generally the case, analyzes Andrew Palmer from the business magazine The Economist, that long-ruling parties are bored with power and like to return to old certainties. And so the 358 Tory MPs in the House of Commons are called upon to keep ticking on ballot papers until a duo is left from the decury of candidates by today, which I said in the beginning of the video. This should then trek through the vacationing country until the end of August, and they should present themselves to around 180,000 paying party members at as many events as possible before they vote on September 5th. According to the latest count, Great Britain has almost 50 million voters, so just 0.2% decide on the power in the kingdom. And the trustworthiness of Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, the Secretary of State for Commerce Penny Mordaunt, ex-Finance Minister Rishi Sunak, and ex-Secretary of State Kemi Badenoch were hotly debated last weekend. They must also justify themselves for individual or collective decisions. And outsider Tom Tugendhat, who's already eliminated on Monday, and alone without a Johnson past, was the only one who promised a complete fresh start. And none of the remaining two will do that. Questions of character and judgment play a major role this time, if only because the party cannot afford a second populist like Johnson, but they have no choice. Although he secured a major election victory with full-bodied promises, he proved to be unsuitable for governing. The newcomer cannot compete against a completely incompetent competitor like Johnson did in 2019. Rather, Labour now poses a serious challenge under the character of Keir Starmer, even if that guy is boring and has made some wrong decisions from my point of view. But meanwhile, Starmer's program is still very hazy, with which an opposition party can afford to do 2 years before the likely election date. But not the ruling party, which is why their education expert Rachel Wolf warns, people will ask us what we did. The co-author of the 2019 Tory election program, the manifesto, is surprised at the lack of a substantive debate. People were angry at Johnson's lies. That doesn't mean they are scrapping the manifesto too. In addition to the promised Brexit, one of the main points was the always somewhat vague levelling up project, the increased investment in neglected parts of the country, especially in the north of England, and social upgrading. So far, practically nothing has happened. The Tories also need to talk about GP appointments, NHS reforms, rising energy prices and inflation. After all, these are the current everyday problems of the population, and none of the candidates said anything about levelling up. But one thing is for sure, with bleak economic prospects and double-digit inflation forecasts for the autumn, the newcomer to Downing Street will have to break Johnson's habit of promising the country everything and the opposite too. Johnson once flipped the super English quip, "You can't have the cake and eat it at the same time," to "have the cake and eat it." This absurdity has now entered the English dictionary as Cakeism. But with that, the candidate Kemi Badenoch promised, with a general nod from the competition, it's over. Yeah, they cannot, but that's a lie. Because I have to disagree with her. With none of the candidates I see the slightest chance that it's over in their minds. The global Britain fantasies will continue in full force, no matter who will be party leader and prime minister. And I'll see you in my next video. Möge die Macht mit dir sein.